Hello friends, today we will continue the subject utilization of electrical energy and traction for 5th sem diploma electrical students, and we will resume our classes. So in our last class we have read about the three types of collision, and we will understand these three types of collision briefly. So the first type is elastic collision. So in this type, the kinetic energy uh, gained by the accelerating electron is so slow that after collision with some valence electron of an atom of the gas medium, it deviates from its original path. Energy supplied by it is not sufficient to cause any physical change in the atomic structure of the atom struck by it. So here students, the kinetic energy gained by the accelerating electron is very low. So after collision, that the valence electron of the atom of the gas medium deviates from its original path because of its slow, or you can say very less kinetic energy. So energy supplied by it is not sufficient to cause any physical change in the atomic structure of the atom struck by it. Excitation collision, the second type. In this type of collision, quantum of energy given by striking electron is large enough to change the energy level of gas atom. Electron coming in its path, the extra energy is insufficient to bring the valence electron to a conduction level. Here also students, you can find out or you can see it is evident that in this type of collision, quantum of energy given by the striking electron, this electron which strikes, what happens then? This striking electron is so high, or it's so large enough to change the energy level of the gas atom. Electron coming in its path, so those electrons which are coming in its path, it is so high that it is so large enough that it changes the energy level of the gas atom. The extra energy is sufficient to bring the valence electron to a conduction level. So electron remains attached to the parent atom but shifts a higher orbit temporarily. So now after this collision takes place, this valence electron shifts from the parent atom and it gets shifted for a temporary period. After few seconds, these electrons return to the original orbit and departs its extra energy in form of photons of light. So the energy is liberated in the forms of photons of light. So there is a diagram students, you can just have a look of it. So the first one is the before collision, and then there is the figure for after collision. So you can just have a look at this diagram, nothing much difficult to understand. So this is the ionization collision, you can see before collision and it is after collision. So there is a valence electron shown in the in your picture, or you can in your screen, and after collision you can see the valence electrons becomes free. Now the third type is ionization collision. In this type of collision, energy supplied by striking electron to valence electron of gas is so high that valence electron leaves parent atom and becomes a free electron. This process is called ionization. Three types of collision are shown in figure 6.4. So we conclude that excited atom emits photons of light and the process continues as long as emission in discharge tube occurs and anode potential is sufficiently higher than cathode. Now we will discuss illumination students. So the definition of illumination and the various terms used in this chapter. So illumination is different from light. because we might think that illumination and light both are same, but light is cause and illumination is the result of the light on surface in which it falls. Thus, the illumination makes the surface more or less bright with a certain color, and it is this brightness and color which the eye sees. Right. So here students, the illumination is different from light, and how it is different? Light is cause and illumination is the result. So if there is light only, there will be a phenomena called illumination which will exist. So without light there cannot be illumination. So after the light falls on a surface only, the total surface got illuminated. So these two are totally different things, but there is very light difference you should know. So because only the light is there, we are able to make the substance illuminated, right? Thus the illumination makes the surface look more or less bright with a certain color, and it is this brightness and color which our eyes sees. Now the terms used in illumination, the first one is light. Light is defined as the radiant energy from a hot body causing visual sensation upon the human eye. So already we have discussed in the introduction part that our eye, when it gets sensation, then we observe a object on and also the object where the light is falling, right? So we can define light in this way. So light is defined as the radiant energy from a hot body causing visual sensation upon the human eyes. Similarly, flux, it is also known as luminous flux. It is defined as the total quantity of light energy radiated or emitted per second from a luminous body in form of light waves. It is measured in lumens. So you have to remember the unit of flux is in lumens, and it is denoted by F or phi. It is defined as the rate of luminous energy. If Q lumens hour is the luminous output of source of light and energy radiated is for T hours, then flux phi is equal to Q by T lumens. So you have to remember students this formula, how to find out flux, that is phi is equal to Q divided by T. So what is this Q? Q. This Q is lumens hours, and the T is in hours. Now light energy, similarly, it is the energy obtained in visual radiation in a given time and is expressed in lumen hour. So light energy can be obtained in visual radiation in a given time and is expressed in lumen hour, and it is denoted by Q, capital Q. Luminous efficiency or radiant efficiency. So it is defined as the output in lumen per watt of the power consumed by the source of light. It is measured in lumens per wattage. If a bulb is rated at 500 watts and 250 volt has an efficiency of 13 lumens per watt, the total flux produced by the bulb is equal to 500 into 13 is equal to 6500 lumens. So students, just be careful here, because see, you have to find out luminous efficiency, which is either called as also radiant efficiency. So how it will be find out, and what is its definition? It is defined as the output in lumens per watt. So it is defined as the output in lumens per watt, and it is measured in lumens per wattage. So there is an example, if a bulb rated 500 watt, the wattage of the bulb is 500 watt, let us assume, and the rated voltage is 250 volt, and as efficiency of 13 lumens per watt, then the total flux produced is equal to 500 into 13. Why 13? Because it is its efficiency. So if we will multiply the wattage of the bulb into the efficiency, we will get the total lumens. You have to remember, because you may get such kind of short 2 mark questions that you may have to find out the lumens, and the question there will be the wattage and your efficiency will be given. Now students, we will discuss about plane angle. Plane angle is subtended at a point in the same plane by two converging lines. So you can see from the figure, there is the radius, there is an angle theta with an arc. So the angle is measured in radians or degree. The radian is the angle subtended at the center of a circle by an arc whose length is equal to the radius of the circle. Therefore, theta is equal to arc divided by radius. That is equal to L by R. If the arc is taken as the length L and radian, so here this theta is equal to arc divided by radius. So if the arc is denoted by, or the length of the arc is small l and the radius is given by small r, then theta will be is equal to L divided by R. This short definition you should remember, students, because you will get plenty of short questions from here. And radian is equal to 180 divided by pi degrees. Already in your mathematics classes you have understood that 1 radian is equal to 180 divided by pi. That will give you in degrees. The largest plane angle subtended at a point may be 2 pi radians. Now solid angle. Solid angle is the angle generated by the line passing through the point in space and the periphery of the area. It is also defined as a solid angle enclose a volume by an infinite number of lines lying on a surface and meeting at a point. So it is denoted by this solid angle is denoted by the letter omega. It is measured in steradians, right? So you should also pronounce it properly, steradians, and it is denoted by the letter omega. So students, this is also a particular type of short question which is usually asked by State Council, and solid angle you have to write its definition, also the mathematical formula. So omega is the denotation of solid angle, and it can be found out by dividing radius square with area, or area divided by radius square will give you in steradian, where 1 steradian is the angle subtended at the center of a sphere by an area of the surface of the sphere which is numerically equal to the square of the radius. The total plane angle subtended by circumference of a circle at the center of a circle is 2 pi. So at the center, the angle, or you can say the total plane angle, will be 2 pi radians. So similarly, total solid angle subtended at a point in space is obtained by considering point at the center of sphere and the surface area of the sphere. So there is the diagram, you can find out. There is a solid angle in figure 6.6. We will find out circle enclosing total plane angle at C. Also there is a sphere shown in the figure 6.8 enclosing total solid angle at C. So plane angle theta is equal to r by radius. Already just few moments ago I have told you. You might check it over here also. This formula, L by R, or your R divided by radius, theta is equal to. So here theta is equal to arc divided by radius, which is also equal to circumference divided by radius. That will give you the total angle. Now that we can also write down 2 pi into r divided by r is equal to 2 pi radians. That will give you the total angle, total solid angle, or omega is the total solid angle. So how we will find it out? So omega is equal to area of the sphere surface divided by radius of the sphere square of the radius of sphere. So area of the sphere, we all know that 4 pi into r square, and radius of the sphere is r. So square of the radius is r square. So we got 4 pi steradians. So this is the way we have to remember luminous intensity. Luminous intensity is an particular direction in the luminous flux emitted by per unit solid angle by a point source, and it is denoted by the letter capital I. These are the definitions, students, you have to remember and are frequently asked in your examinations. Capital I is equal to F divided by omega. You should not read at W. It should be read as omega. F divided by omega, that is equal to phi divided by omega, and it will give you in lumens per steradian or candela. It is the ratio of brightness of a source of light to that of standard candle. One candle gives out luminous flux of 4 pi lumens. So one candle gives out the luminous flux of 4 pi lumens, because it is a point source. So if the total area or the solid, if you will consider it as a sphere, because the light will be emitted throughout all directions, so the total luminous flux is equal to 4 pi lumens in space. The lumens emitted by one candle source of light is 1 lumen per steradian. In scientific terms, candela is defined as luminous intensity in the perpendicular direction of a surface of 1 by 600,000 square meter, or you can also say 1 by 6 lakh square meter of a full radiator at the temperature of freezing platinum under a pressure of 1,1325 Newton per square meter. Now lumen. Lumen is defined as the amount of luminous flux given out in space represented by 1 unit of solid angle. So lumen is defined as the amount of luminous flux given out in space represented by 1 unit of solid angle by a source having an intensity of 1 candle power, and it will be in all directions. So lumen is equal to candle power into solid angle, that will be is equal to in short form we can write down it as C dot P, that is candle power, into omega, that is the solid angle, or the total lumens given out by the source of one candela is 4 pi lumens. Candle power, CP. Candle power is the light rendering capacity of a source in a given direction and is defined as number of lumens given out by the source in a unit solid angle in a given direction. So it is denoted by the symbol C dot P. So candle power is equal to lumens divided by omega. So here lumens divided by omega, omega is here the solid angle, or you can say it is in steradians. Now illumination. When light falls upon any surface, the phenomena is called illumination. So after the light falls on a substance only, the substance get illuminated, and then only we say it has been illuminated. So it is defined as the number of lumens falling on the surface per unit area. So it is also defined as the number of lumens falling on the surface per unit area. It is denoted by the symbol capital E and is measured in lumens per square meter or lux or meter candle. So you have to remember, students, the unit of illumination. Usually lux is denoted, but you should remember the other units also. They are same although, but you should have the knowledge that otherwise if somebody asks you the whose unit or the unit of illumination is meter candle, you will say no, then it cannot be, because meter candle is also called as lux. It is also in lumens per square meter also. So usually you will the term lux will be used, but still then you should remember the other two also. If a flux of 5 lumens falls on a surface area capital A, then the illumination of that surface is E is equal to sigma no, or phi divided by A lumens per meter square, or lux or meter candle. Big unit of illumination is foot. So now there will be one thing you will be confusing. You might be confusing. I think that sir, there is lux, a unit of illumination. Also, you are saying fort is also there. So nothing to worry, because in higher illumination values, the term fort will be used, right? So similarly, we will also find where we use kilo, mega, giga, nano, pico. So there are different terms. So depending upon the value, we change its. You can say uh, the terms or the value. Suppose there is a value which has to be multiplied with 10 to the power 6. So accordingly, we multiply and term it as mega or any power which it has been raised. Similarly, here also in illumination case, the smaller unit is your lux and the higher unit is expressed in fort. So 1 fort is equal to 10 to the power 4 lux. You have to remember. So this I should highlight also so that you will remember. 1 fort is equal to 10 to the power 4 lux. Now this is over. Meter candle, it is also known as lux. Already we have said that lux is the unit of illumination, and it is the other units are meter candle. So what is the definition of meter candle or lux also, you can say? It is also known as lux. It is unit of illumination, as we have already told, and is defined as the luminous flux falling per square meter on the surface, which is everywhere perpendicular to the rays of light from the source of 1 candle power and 1 meter away from it. So there is the definition, students. There is another one also. So it is the illumination produced by a source of 1 candle power on the inner surface of the sphere on 1 meter radius. So why the inner radius? Because the light will be only able to travel within those region inside the sphere, right? So you might be thinking, is that a practical sphere? No, 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 there is no practical sphere. It is only a imaginary distance up to which this light or this point source can reach, because assuming that there is a point source. So let me show you with the help of this brush. So suppose this is a point source, students, right? So it will emit light from this direction, this direction, this direction, this direction, as well as in this direction. So it will form a total distance like a circle, or you can say sphere. Why in 3D? Because light do not travel in only single direction, it travels in all the three direction. So we are considering it as a sphere, right? So is there any case the light will travel more at a space or an axis, and the other axis it will cover a less distance? No, it will cover totally equal distance. So that is the reason why we have taken as the inner part of the sphere. Yes. Now centimeter candle, it is also the unit of illumination, and it is defined as luminous flux falling per square centimeter on the surface, which is everywhere perpendicular to the rays of light from a source of 1 candle power. and 1 centimeter away from it. So it is also similar, only the difference is earlier it was having 1 meter, here the radius is 1 centimeter. Now it is also defined as the illumination produced by a uniform source of 1 candle power on the inner surface of a sphere of 1 centimeter radius. So here also the same thing, the radius is 1 centimeter. It is also defined as it is also measured in lumens per centimeter square or foot. Why foot is a higher units for measurement of illumination. 1 foot is again is equal to 10 to the 4 lumens per centimeter square. Already we have uh, highlighted those value, again it has been said. Now foot candle, what is its definition and what is foot candle? It is illumination produced by a uniform source of 1 candle power on the inner surface of 1 foot radius. So students, here also I will make you understand with the help of this brush. So if this is a point source, or you can say this is the source of illumination, and the distance traveled by any one way, if it is 1 foot, right, then it will emit throughout the same distance only, right, and it will be covering a sphere. Similar to that diagram, here also the total distance traveled will be with a inner part of the sphere, which is imaginary totally, and it will be assumed that the radius which it has traveled, that is 1 foot, and the light will be emitted in this particular region only. So it is also defined as the luminous flux falling per square foot on surface which is perpendicular to the rays of light from a source of 1 candle power and 1 foot away from it. 1 foot candle is equal to 1 lumens per foot square or square foot. So it can be remembered in this way: 1 foot candle is equal to 1 lumens per square foot. So this formula also, students, you have to remember. 1 foot candle is equal to 1 lumens per square foot. Now, mean spherical candle power. This is a must question in your examination, which is frequently asked, and it is abbreviated as MSCP. So what is MSCP? Mean spherical candle power. It is defined as the average candle power in all direction and in all planes from the source of light. So it is mathematically expressed as MSCP is equal to total flux in lumens divided by 4 pi. Here I will just highlight this formula and also suggest you to remember this one. This is a very important formula, and it is very important, and it is particularly asked in your semester's questions. Now, mean hemispherical candle power, MHSCP, it is also similar type of definition which is being asked. So what is it? So mean hemispherical candle power is defined as the average of candle powers in all direction. So it is the average candle power in all direction above or below the horizontal plane passing through the source of light. Next, mean horizontal candle power. It is the average of all candle power in all direction in the horizontal plane containing the source of light. Now the reduction factor, students, this is another term which is also very important. It is the ratio of MSCP to the MHCP. So it is defined, or reduction factor of a source of light is defined as the ratio of mean spherical candle power to mean horizontal candle power. So it is also a very important formula or a factor which you have to remember. So this is the formula. Now, reflection factor. Reflection factor is the ratio of reflected light to incident light, and it is abbreviated as R dot F. R dot F is equal to reflected light divided by incident light. A polished surface like mirror reflects light incident over it. The part of light absorbed by such a surface uh, is too small in comparison with the reflected part. Since all the incident light is not reflected, reflection factor is always less than 1. So it is practically never possible, students, that all the incident light will be reflected. So it is practically always less than 1. So following are some typical values of RF. For a mirror, this RF is equal to 0.80 to 0.85. For stainless steel, it lies from 0.60 to 0.65. Chromium plating is 0.55 to 0.60. So these are the RF values you should try to remember, at least mirror and this stainless steel. Now, lamp efficiency. It is defined as the ratio of luminous flux to the power output. It is expressed as lumens per watt or watts per candle power. Mathematically, lamp efficiency is equal to lumens emitted by source divided by wattage of source of light. So it is also a very important formula, right? You should remember it. Space height ratio. Now students, space height ratio is defined as the ratio of the horizontal distance between two adjacent lamps and the height of the lamps from the working plane. So it is mathematically expressed as space height ratio is equal to horizontal distance between two adjacent lamps divided by height of the lamps above working plane. So SHR, that is space height ratio, is equal to D divided by H. So with the help of a diagram we can just understand. If these two are the lamps, then the distance between these two is the small letter D, and if the height of the room is capital H, then it is taken as H. So D divided by H will give you the SHR ratio, right? Now, the value of space height ratio normally lies between 0.8 to 1.2. Now, depreciation factor. Due to accumulation of dirt, dust, smoke on the lamps, they emit less light as compared to that emit when they were new ones. And similarly, ceiling and walls, etc. So students, you might have observed when a light or a CFL bulb or any bulb which you are using is new and you have installed it, and after that you might have noticed that the light which it gives us is very bright. We think that this light is the genuine one. The earlier light was very we can say it was not a good one because its illumination was not better. Now I am using the term illumination. And what is illumination? Illumination is the effect after the effect of light falls on an object, right? So when the bulb is new, the illumination level is also very high, but after it gets older, what happens? It accumulates dust. It also gets very due to dust, it appears to be a little dimmer than what it was in the new condition. So the ratio of illumination under everything is perfectly clean to the illumination under normally working condition is known as depreciation factor. So it is mathematically it can be expressed as illumination when everything is clean divided by illumination under normal working condition. It is more than unity. It is obvious, students, because you can find out that illumination when everything was clean, definitely the numerator will be higher or lower. Just imagine that if a new bulb is there, the illumination level will be good or bad. If it is good, then it will be greater than 1, and if it is bad, then it will be lower than the previous value or the new value. So when we divide this illumination when everything is clean divided by illumination under normal working condition, how much we will get? That will be obviously greater than unity. Now students, there is another factor, maintenance factor, right? So what is a maintenance factor? It is merely reverse of the depreciation factor. It is always less than unity. So it is the reverse of depreciation factor. So if I will ask you mathematically what will be the expression for your maintenance factor, then you will say it is equal to mh is equal to illumination under normal working condition divided by illumination under the when everything was in clean condition. So this is the equation, students, this one. You just reverse this, then you will find out the maintenance factor. Specific consumption. Now specific consumption is the ratio of power input to the source of light to its luminous intensity. Its unit is watt per candela. So specific consumption, again I am repeating, it is the ratio of power input to the source of light to its luminous intensity. Its unit is watt per candela. Now absorption factor. Now students, in case of factories or places where atmosphere is full of smoke, fumes, where there is a possibility of absorption of light energy. So this term absorption of light energy might be very much unusual to you, but it is a fact which happens inside the industry, where the light or the illumination level decreases very fast way. How this happens? Because suppose there is a conveyor belt, and this conveyor belt is used to convey coal, right? Coal is conveyed by the help of a conveyor belt from one place to another inside the factory. There are several things, but now just you try to understand that by a conveyor belt we can move or transport this raw materials. It can be coal or any other thing. For the instance, let us assume coal is transported from one place of the factory to the other place. Suppose I have to shift this coal to the boiler section, then I will use a conveyor belt, and this conveyor belt produces a lots of dust, this coal dust, right? Not this other dust, this environmental dust. This is due to coal dust, and this coal dust are in black in color, and due to this coal dust, what happens is it gets accumulated in the outer walls of the light, also in the walls of the conveyor belt zone, or you can say that premises or where the conveyor belt is installed. So everything appears to be black in color, and as a result what happens is its illumination level decreases predominantly. So here we can observe this absorption factor. So absorption factor can be defined, or it can be mathematically stated as net lumens available after absorption divided by net lumens emitted by the source of light. Now students, coefficient of utilization. So all the lights emitted by the source does not reach the surface to be illuminated. Suppose let us take an example. You are studying in your you can say in your study table, and there is a study lamp, right? not the room lamp, I am talking about the study lamp. So this study lamp will be this way, right? And this will be illuminated and you have to study here. This is the table. So this study lamp during the initial stage or during the starting when the bulb was new was perfectly illuminated and you were able to read the text and everything quite easily. Now the after some time or when we will calculate the amount of light which is actually used by you during studying is less or more, we will find out now. So the coefficient of utilization, all the light emitted by the source does not reach the surface to be illuminated. So we have placed this study lamp so that it will reach to our book where we have placed and we will easily read the book. So now some portion of the light directly falls upon the surface and some falls upon light fails to or falls upon surface after reflection from wall and ceiling, right or not? So all the lights will not directly fall from the lamp, some of the light will go outside the wall and then will fall on the lamp. So diagrammatically again I will make you explain. So suppose this is the study lamp, right? And this is the book. You are watching the book because the light is falling on the book. Now some of the lights are also traveling this way. Suppose this is the wall. This light after getting incident it get reflected towards your book, not necessarily to your book also, it will reflect to other parts of your room also, but some will reflect to the book, and due to reflection also we are able to read the book or the text which you are reading. So coefficient of utilization is equal to lumens reaching on working plane divided by total lumens emitted by source of light. So this is also a very important term, coefficient of utilization, you should remember, students. Now waste light factor. In flood lighting scheme, a number of projector lamps are employed so that light of each projector not only overlaps that of its adjacent projector, but it at the edges of the area some light falls outside. In order to compute total lumens required, theoretical lumens required are multiplied by waste light and waste light factor. Value of this factor is about 1.2 for rectangular areas and 1.5 for irregular objects such as statues and monuments, etc. Now beam factor. It is used in turn of projector lamp. It is the ratio of lumens in the beam of a projector to the lumens given out by the lamp. This factor takes into account the absorption of the light by reflector and front glass of the projector lamp. Its value lies between 0.3 to 0.6. Now students, there is also laws of illumination, inverse square law, and also there is Lambert's cosine law, which we will discuss in our next class. So students, you go through these notes because it is a totally theory and it is very important also, the class which today I have covered. So try to remember. Thank you students.